Welcome to Your Fitness Chick podcast. Become your best self. I'm a fitness coach spreading positivity to navigate you to fitness, growth, and transformation. Hey, I'm your host, Abby Smiley Krause. I am a fitness enthusiast, a huge dog lover, especially to my babies Gigi and Layla, and I am so passionate about this amazing thing that we call life. In this podcast, I'll be covering topics to improve your fitness, mindset, and well-being. Topics such as longevity, meal prepping, overcoming mindset obstacles, nutrition, and of course, everyone's favorite, weight loss. I'm here to help inspire, uplift, educate, and motivate you to become your best self. Join me here every Tuesday for a fresh episode. Welcome to the Your Fitness Chick podcast. Become your best self. I'm Abby and your fitness chick, and today I have a great episode lined up for you, as always. And my special guest today is Peter Paul Joseph Jr., who has an incredible story to share with us about supplementation and just also his background, which is pretty immense on fitness and wellness. So welcome, Peter. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing wonderful. It's one of those days where you get a slower day to actually be able to do the things you want to be able to do and take the time to explore for the week.
I love that. Yeah, today for the listeners, we don't always record on Tuesdays. We're actually on Sunday today. So Sunday is my favorite day of the week too, Peter, because I come off my 4-day spin at the day spa, which is fast and furious. And even though I have a busy day on Sunday, at least it's more in my control with when I do it. So that means I can take a nap if I want.
Yeah, the naps are the best part when you're able to take it.
Well, we have a mutual friend. That's how we came to know each other, or getting to know each other. But I read a little bit about your background, your bio, and what you've got going on in the fitness industry. And as we discussed prior to hit and record, there's just not enough of us
Yeah.
to help people. There's so many people that need help with fitness, wellness, direction, guidance. So I thought, wow, you would be a great person to be on the show to help inspire other people. So before we dive into some of the nitty gritty about what you got going on, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your background, your bio?
Yeah, so I have ADHD, so I jump around a lot on different topics, but within the field, right? So
Yeah.
it keeps me entertained and it keeps my clients happy and just me helping people the best I can in this industry. So I started off getting my personal training certification in 2017, right after, or right actually when I graduated high school. And
Oh,
I just
wow.
started training from then on. Uh, and I got bored in the summer because I was looking for a job at the time, but I was volunteer coaching at my alumni school. So I was helping coach cross country, coach wrestling. I was already developing their programs throughout high school because at the moment the coach was a little newer to the working out area, and so I'm just like, oh, this
Okay.
is how you do this is how you do that, and so I would just create it, and
Nice.
eventually they just asked me to come back and volunteer coach, and then I got my official paid job a few months afterwards, but in the process before that, I'm just like, I just want to make myself as valuable as possible. So I got group personal training certified as well, nutrition certified, all that good stuff. And then I finished my bachelor's in psychology with emphasis in behavior change. And then there was nutrition classes and anatomy and physiology and stuff like that in there. But I noticed when I was practicing training throughout my bachelor's degree, the main thing was, okay, how do we help you outside of the gym to keep these habits going and make sure you continue your process without me? Because let's be honest, it is a service that is very valuable and it's an investment in yourself. The investment isn't realistic to keep all the time if you don't have that kind of income coming in all the time, because
Sure.
sometimes it's a stretch, right? um,
Right.
So I'm just like, how do we make the most value for these people? And during that time, as I'd like to jump around, I got multiple different specialties, right? So I got my 200-hour yoga certification, my 300-hour, because I was very into mindfulness too. And some of my thesis in my psychology degree program was the benefits of mindfulness, as well as focusing on the behavior change. So those kind of played a nice role in everything, because you don't know
Sure.
what's going on until you're mindful of it. So if you're eating a bunch of shit and you don't realize how much you're eating, because sometimes you're just like,
Uh-huh.
oh, I had this, this, and this, but how much did you have of it? You know what I mean? So you go into that, and then I got in with a few different companies, and I learned even more. At one point, I was with Stretch Lab. That's where our mutual friend was, the connection to where you get certified in stretching people out and doing things like that. And although that was helpful, I realized, okay, you need strength component with it too in order to combine the both worlds. Then
Mhm.
after a little bit, eventually I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and I got in with another facility. And I'm just like, okay, let's look into more mobility work to combine the two, right? So functional range conditioning systems I got certified in. And that was basically you're getting into these new ranges of motion while helping strengthen yourself. And I'm a huge person in helping to cover my weaknesses. I'm just like, okay, what can I improve? How can I get better? And what I noticed was when people were asking me nutrition questions, I couldn't go as in depth as I would like to. And even though I had that nutrition certification, it only goes into the little surface area of it, right?
Benefit.
So then I got into a master's program in which I'm halfway through finishing up in
Nice.
nutrition and exercise physiology with emphasis in dietary supplements. But even before then, I was looking into more nutritional aspects so I can answer these questions. But I'm all about getting the credibility I can get in order to make myself known in the field without giving a bunch of nonsense answers. And the thing is, the field is constantly evolving. So one answer one day might be different than in the future. And we all make mistakes.
100%.
We're developing and growing in the industry as we learn.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so I've been doing this about 7 years now and just evolving as time goes by into the nutrition, fitness, health fields, just developing it up and
Wow.
building more
What
and
a
more.
little firecracker.
Yeah, yeah. It's that
So
ADHD.
how old are you? You're 24, 25?
Yeah, I turned 25 May 20th. So,
I love it. The spirit of an entrepreneur at such a young age. I think that's just kind of become such a new thing, entrepreneurship. And I love that because, especially with the way that the world and the economy is right now, it's kind of like when you can be in control of that, that's a huge benefit. But more than that, at the very top is fulfilling your purpose and your calling,
yes.
which definitely sounds like you found yours. So you've been doing a lot at such an early age. So that's inspiring.
Yeah, my
So
goal is to help others live healthier lives. That's my purpose. So,
and that's wonderful. And so let's dive into that a little bit. So you just did something really exciting in this past year, right? You recently launched a mushroom enhanced pre-workout supplement, which sounds really interesting. And I can't wait to hear about it. So, how long has this been in the making, and what made you decide you wanted to do this?
so it's been about 10 months. It's like a baby, you know? So, finally gave birth to it. Uh, thankfully, I didn't have to experience the pleasures of giving birth, right? So,
It's almost as bad when you have your own business.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of obstacles in the way, and
Right,
it wasn't like what I had to experience in the fitness industry of being young into the industry and having to prove
right,
myself through all the stuff I just explained, because that's part of the reason why I did it all. But essentially, mushrooms have been growing in the amounts of studies that are getting exposed out there. We actually just had a recent study about increased muscle synthesis with cordyceps mushrooms. That was on humans. So that's awesome because it used to just be in vitro studies, which is basically
right,
you have a petri dish and you insert stuff into that petri dish and see how it is. Unfortunately,
right,
when supplements or even anything is done in vitro, it's very hard to translate that data. It just means there's potential for more research to be done in that field, but doesn't really give you much going on in there.
right.
So, with mushrooms, they've been growing in familiarity and more studies and things of that nature to be there. Lion's mane, has been pretty well researched, and reishi too, to a certain extent. There still needs to be more research. By no means is any of this definitive data yet, because there's always room. So take that with a grain of salt anytime supplements are being talked about. And this is coming from somebody that created a supplement company that wants to sell a supplement, right? I'm all about in making sure you get what you need, not what you don't need. I don't want you to buy something that's not going to help you. That's not the purpose of this at all. So part of the reason why I decided to make this supplement was as I mentioned, I have ADHD, and when I take mushroom supplements, I find it helps me a lot more in just being a little bit more focused and cognitively clear.
So like your cognitive function, your clarity, your focus.
Yeah, and that's especially with lion's mane itself. Reishi can be beneficial to immunity. Cordyceps for endurance, and a bunch of other stuff now, right? That we're learning more into the fitness area. And a minimum of 500 milligrams is usually seen to be beneficial for this. And I'm sure that'll change down the road, just like all the other ingredients in the supplement. There's more and more data. Plus, we don't know how they interact with each other as a synergistic approach, right? So you have to be careful on how you're mixing these things and going from there. So I looked at the what was more researched too as I was developing it. I'm just like, I don't like how caffeine makes me feel typically. I get the shakes. That's how beta alanine does too. You get the tingles, the fiery skin, and I get itchy when I start working out already. So I'm investigating that a little bit. But I'm just like, okay, I wonder if that's from this. So I usually avoid the pre-workouts with caffeine just because usually it's too much caffeine that the human body, like you should not have more than 300 milligrams of caffeine a day. Right? We're having increased heart issues from a bunch of different stuff, and caffeine could be a contributing factor. Is it? Couldn't tell you, but it could be.
Absolutely. Because let's just admit though, because we are living in a world where people are dependent upon caffeine because so many people have sleep challenges and problems sleeping through the night that they take stuff to help them sleep. They take stuff to stay awake during the day, which is usually huge amounts of caffeine.
Yeah. And it's this cycle because it's a 6-hour half-life, right? So it takes 6 hours from the point in which you take it in order to cut it in half. And it blocks the receptors in order for you to get the notice of, oh, I need to sleep now. So you have too much of that. Say you have 300 milligrams in the morning if you're a 5 a.m. workout person, which good for you because I am not. Yeah. So say you do that in the morning, right? And then 6 hours from that time, you're going to have half of it in your system. And let's just say 70 milligrams is in 1 cup of coffee, right? Which is a lot of people's caffeine of choice. And not to mention the other phytonutrients, which are plant chemicals that also affect how it absorbs. You might notice that green tea feels differently how coffee feels. Part of it is because there's different stuff in each of them, right? So there's L-theanine in green tea and all that. I'm not going to talk about that too much. That's another conversation for a different day.
But I love L-theanine. It's a really good amino acid, and it's one that's in a lot of different things.
Exactly. So that also helps regulate how much caffeine is being delivered, as well as some of the other nutrients going on in there. With that being said, caffeine in itself is not a bad thing. It has many benefits, but also almost anything with benefits has negatives. I don't like some of the negatives of the caffeine when I take it in my body. And that's what I go off of when I'm trying to create something. And then I research, okay, how are other people feeling about this? So as I was developing this product, originally I wanted to make a creatine chewable supplement that you can take. And because creatine is one of the most studied supplements that is very beneficial. And personally, I don't like using the powder to just put it in over and over again because I like to just swallow something and put it in. And plus, it didn't have any taste, the ones I would get, because I don't like artificial flavoring. So when I was looking into this, reaching out to manufacturers, I'm just like, okay, let's see if we can make this. And I had some of the cordyceps in there, right? So I'm just like, okay.
This is when let's rewind back for a second. So this is when you're thinking about creating the chewable creatine. So that's what we're talking about now, not your pre-workout journey.
Correct. This is the journey to create that pre-workout. Yeah. So originally, that's what I was thinking about. And then I contacted the manufacturers, And it was just, unless you wanted to eat a hockey puck, it just wasn't going to happen. Right. So, so I'm just like, okay, let's rewire. What else is going to be beneficial to people in the delivery in which we can get it? So I ended up deciding on the powder. And that's because I was able to put more into it and be able to help others get all the ingredients I wanted into it. And I'm just like, okay, Rhodelia rosea is pretty studied on helping muscle fatigue. Ginseng is pretty helpful in helping muscle fatigue. And I knew I didn't want caffeine in the supplement, right? And then I'm just like, okay, mushrooms are very beneficial that I've noticed in my body. How can I help other people do it? And there was only 3 others on the market at the time when I was researching it. And all of them had added caffeine. And I'm just like, okay, so obviously mine is going to stand out already. The other thing was the amount of just the taste, like the artificial taste. And I'm not saying artificial sweeteners and tastes are bad. I'm just saying I don't like the taste of them. And there was feedback on the reviews of the other supplements that, hey, we don't like this. It tastes too much like cough syrup mixed with a bunch of dirt. You know, because mushrooms don't taste the best. So, and I know it sounds like I'm selling it quite a bit right now, right? So with that being said, you see mushroom coffee out there. One of the main things I see is that it doesn't taste the best. So I'm just like, okay, how can I make this taste better and still get the benefits while sticking to my values, right? So what we ended up doing was we used an extract of the mushrooms, so you can get the same benefit and the same potency without all the extra ground up mushrooms, right? So now it's concentrated. And then you have the Rhodelia rosea and ginseng blended up with these 3 mushrooms, cordyceps, reishi, and lion's mane. And when you mix cordyceps and Rhodelia rosea, there's suggestion that helps improve endurance in general, especially in endurance athletes specifically. So let alone the benefits of those supplements by themselves, right? So now you have them in conjunction with each other. And then you also have ginseng. Now, I wanted to use ginseng and Rhodelia rosea together so I can decrease the amount in which I put into it because there's side effects of nausea. And I wanted to avoid the side effects of nausea, have the mood boosting effects, and help decrease the muscular fatigue. So my thought process around that, and there's not as much studies to support this idea, is that if you can combine the two, they both help reduce muscular fatigue. So if you do that and combine them together, maybe you'll be able to decrease the amount of nausea symptoms that you have. And actually, I just took the supplement earlier today. I didn't have any nausea, but that's me and my body. I didn't take it on an empty stomach either. So certainly...
Now, I want to interrupt you for a second. So, because I get up, I do drink a protein drink before I go to the gym, but that's not like a solid, right?
Right.
So with that being said, is there a more likelihood that if you don't eat or have something in your stomach prior to that you would have that nausea, or is there enough ginseng in there to counterbalance that?
Now, I couldn't tell you because it depends on each person's body, right? Anytime you're going into it. I just know that when I drink something on an empty stomach that has herbal ingredients, that I need at least something in my body. Protein does digest down, right? So it's getting broken down in the stomach. So that might be something that helps. I couldn't tell you on that aspect. But going back into the different ingredients and how able to create them, the nausea was a factor. And I'm just like, I don't want the nausea, right? Like, nausea's no fun. Is there a potential that can be there? Yes, but I tried to reduce the likelihood as much as I could in there. That being said, the artificial flavoring, right? There is none in this one. I used honey powder. Honey powder to naturally sweeten it, and it gives an antimicrobial effect to the supplement. So that way, there's less likelihood that microbials would be in there if it got exposed to it. Right? Because you're dipping your hand on the scoop each and every time. And it has some carbohydrates. There's not too many calories in the supplement. It was just enough to help the absorption of creatine. There's 3 grams of creatine in there. And creatine, it absorbs into the body if you're taking it daily for a month. because this supplement, you don't want to create, like, you don't want to have a bunch of creatine at once, which is called creatine loading. That's not what this supplement's designed for. But if you do take a creatine supplement, this is fine on top of it and may enhance it a little bit.
Right. If you take in the average 5 grams.
Yeah. So there's 3 grams in here, and 3 to 5 grams are what is suggested that help in the studies. And so caffeine reduces the efficiency of creatine. So creatine monohydrate does not work as well if you're taking caffeine with it. And I'm just like, okay, so now everything's kind of going synergistically in this supplement, right? So you got your mushrooms, you got those herbs, you have that. And I'm just like, okay, how do we get creatine to absorb better while also providing some sodium to the body, because you're going to be exerting yourself? So I put sea salt in there. And I say I put it. I created the formula. The manufacturer made it for me, because that's the most that is the most sanitary way and safe way to do it, so that when you send it over to a lab to get tested on what's actually in it is in it, microbial testing, mold testing, all that good stuff, steroid testing, that all comes back fine, to where it's safe for consumers, because you don't want to poison people with something that's trying to help them. Right. So
that would be kind of counterproductive.
No, that'd be very counterproductive. So that's kind of what the thought process was in this. And then I looked at the metrics, and I'm just like, okay, this could be profitable, but it depends, because at the end of the day, it does need to be a little profitable in order for you to create it. Because I put close to $20,000 into this, so and probably I will continue investing into it, right? So to make it as best as I can as new knowledge comes in, I might have to mess with the dosage a little bit in order to get better results. But so far, the people that have tried it, that I've heard feedback from, is it tastes good. There's monk fruit and stevia to sweeten it a little bit more, so it tastes like honey water, sugar water. You don't really have too much of the aftertaste of the mushrooms or herbs, which is nice. And that was my main thing. I wanted the taste to be good, because I don't like tasting things that taste horrible or like dirt. That's not my thing. And that was
I don't know if you saw, it's a funny, I don't remember which social platform I posted it on, but I was drinking my pre-workout drink, because I have mine that I'm going to be launching too, but mine's going to be stimulant, so it will not be competitive with yours. Maybe even we could bond together and do both. But mine's a stimulant. But anyway, going back to my thing, I was drinking it on the way to the gym, and when I had went to where did I buy that one from Vitamin Shop. I always go in and say, I'm making my weekly donation, because I spend so much money on my supplements there, that I just randomly picked this specific pre-workout. Well, it tasted like complete shit. It tasted like Windex.
No.
So in my video, I'm like, when your pre-workout tastes like Windex, but you're going to get jacked, and I drink it, and I'm like, I'll allow it. But I was like, I can't wait till this tub is gone. And supplements are expensive, and that one I think was like $50-$60, and I'm like, damn it, I'm drinking all this, I don't care. And when you're really into fitness, sometimes you're like, I don't really care what it tastes like. If I know it's going to do me good, I mean, it's a bonus when it doesn't taste like crap, but if it's going to do me good, I'm going to muster through it. So I can totally identify, and I'm sure many of the people listening can identify with finding something that tastes good, that doesn't make you feel nauseous, that's going to give you all this benefit, because this to me sounds phenomenal. I mean, it just makes sense, even from somebody that's listening on the other end that doesn't have a lot of experience with supplements or synergy, the blends and how it works and how your body takes it all in and absorbs. But with the creatine, the caffeine removed from it, then putting the ginseng in with it, and then sweeten it with something natural and not chemicals, no artificial colors and dyes and all that garbage. So this sounds like a really amazing thing. I can't wait to try it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's $10 off right now for the first few months, just because it's new. I want to get people familiar with it, because basically what it is it's got a slow energy boost, right? You take 15 to 30 minutes before your workout. It's like this slow cognitive boost. You start to have a little bit of energy rises. It's not going to hit you like a truck. And then you'll notice the fatigue levels aren't as bad as you're lifting. Because I was just rock climbing earlier with it. And I'm just like, oh, okay, my hands are rubbed raw, but my muscles can keep going, right? But my hands did not want to keep going because the skin was coming off. So I'm just like, I gotta stop. But I was able to keep going.
You've got that mental toughness, obviously, Peter.
Uh,
But, just to interject for a second here. So, a lot of people, first of all, we're not doctors. You should always consult your doctor before taking any supplements. There will be no suing of Peter Paul Joseph Jr. or your fitness chick or Abby Smiley Krause. And you should consult your doctor because we want what's healthy for you.
Yes.
Okay. Number one, first and foremost. Number two, if you're not used to taking a pre-workout drink and you don't understand the significance of it, even if you're brand new to working out, it can serve a purpose for you. So, especially if you are sensitive to caffeine, if you do have heart issues, if you have blood pressure issues, you would want to avoid excessive caffeine. So when you're looking, like, let's say you walked into a vitamin shop and you're in the pre-workout drink section, which is actually become so big.
It's huge
these days. You'll see on the front where they say stimulant or non-stimulant, and stimulant is indicating the presence of caffeine mostly. So just so you know, for the listeners who are kind of new to this whole ride on the wagon with supplements, I want them to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And also there are some supplements that are not necessarily that great, so you should always enter everything in with discretion. And when I had the guys on here from AO Nutrition, we kind of laughed because I said, some people think that buying supplements is just complete waste of money. They think it contributes to a really nice, expensive pee.
Yeah.
And and that may be true for some things, for sure. So I'm not saying all supplements are great. I'm not saying all supplements are garbage, but I just wanted to enter in kind of that little as we're talking about supplements, because it is really important to understand a little bit about them.
And I'll add to that as well. It is not regulated by the FDA. The USDA regulates the supplements to a certain extent, and that's mainly the facilities that produce the supplement. And then what you really want to look for is CGMP certified. It just means good manufacturing practices. Basically, they're not adding a bunch of steroids into it. They're continually, the facility is getting checked and looked at for it. You want a third party tested supplement because it's getting tested. Like I mentioned earlier, Amazon has huge regulatory standards. That's why I'm on there.
That's where people can right now buy your
it's only available on Amazon right now, and it's because they highly regulate the supplement industry. Like we had a month little snag because the supplement ended up being considered a sports supplement, which a pre-workout, yes, I should have known that. But so I had to get it tested for steroids. Which thankfully it's back on Amazon, meaning it does not have steroids. And then, but everything else, like you have to have a certificate of analysis saying what's in it is actually in it. So you're consuming what's on the label, right? You have to have a microbial and mold test, making sure that there's no mold so there's standards on how much mold is in there. Because in almost everything there is mold, or at least a slight amount, right? So you're trying to make sure it's hitting the standard in which is presented. Obviously, you want to be as low as possible on that standard. Yeah, sure. And I even asked the manufacturers, I'm just like, hey, is this good for this? They're just like, yes, you're way under, like, what the thing is. They're just like, this is what's recommended, and I was like 1% of that. You know what I mean? Which means it was extremely trace amounts to where there was almost none. I couldn't tell you if there wasn't any, but there was almost none. And that's how it is in almost every supplement, because they're stored on shelves, they're getting packaged and from one area to another area, right? And that's why it gets lab tested. Unfortunately, not all brands do this. I couldn't tell you which ones, but I learned that not every facility has these standards. So sometimes if you see a supplement in Vitamin Shop or in GNC or on the store shelves like Walmart or Sprouts or whatever it is, they don't necessarily have to be tested. Now, I
Right.
don't know what each facility standards are for them because I am not using them right now. But I can tell you, if you do want to get a supplement, Amazon regulates it quite a bit.
Which is a good thing to know because almost everybody orders from Amazon all the time. Now, just so the listeners know, what is the exact name of your mushroom enhanced pre workout supplement? What is
Called
the name of it?
Shroom Nectar. So
Shroom Nectar.
yeah,
Shroom
Shroom
Nectar,
Nectar. So it's like a mushroom. You take the shroom there because there's
right?
mushrooms in it, right? And then
Right.
the honey makes it taste kind of nectary, right? So nectar,
Oh,
like
okay.
I
Okay.
associated that with like sweetness. So Shroom Nectar.
I got it. I like it. I like it. Just so people are at a red light, they can Google and order it right now.
Yeah,
Um,
appreciate it.
So, with pre workouts and with any supplementation, sometimes there is an opportunity of side effects,
Yeah.
right? So, we've talked about some of the side effects, especially with the pre workout drinks that contain stimulants, such as the nausea, the shakiness, things bad for your heart racing. Does your Shroom Nectar have any side effects that you're aware of at this moment?
So if you look at the ingredients specifically, there, anytime with creatine, Rhodelia rosea, or ginseng, there could be potential side effects of gastric discomfort or nausea, right? Um, the mushrooms also can help gut microbiome. So there's like this give and take, but I couldn't tell you directly how much it would affect you or how often the side effects would be just because of the amount that's in there and it's working synergistically, right? So that could be a potential side effect. If you're allergic to anything in there and you don't know it, obviously you might have an allergic reaction, right? So
Right.
anytime you're taking a supplement, you have to make sure it will not mess with your medications because you are dealing with some herbs in this supplement, meaning herbs still have other plant nutrients that could affect with your medication.
Right.
So always consult a medical provider before you use any of this, right? We want to make sure you're safe with something that's supposed to help you boost your energy. There is some studies that suggest Rhodelia rosea taken later at night could mess with your sleep, but with the amount in the supplement, it's mainly for mood benefits with some fatigue towards the muscles, and that's why I put the ginseng and Rhodelia rosea in there. But
Okay.
experiment with how it feels in your body and when you take it before you make a decision. Because if you're taking a caffeinated pre workout at night compared to this one, you might have to make an educated guess on what feels better for you and your body when it comes to that. It may be better to have the less stimulated one. It might be better just for you and your body based off of your threshold to have the caffeinated one. It's really up to you and what you feel.
And I always test drive stuff. So anytime
Yeah.
I get any kind of a new supplement, especially if it's in a powder form that I'm going to be drinking it, and I have that control, like when it's in a capsule, you just can't. But
Yeah.
obviously, in a powder, I'll ease my way into it just to see how I do with it. And I got this new one last week, and I mix it in like every morning. I usually do a mixture after my pre workout drink of creatine and my BCAs, and sometimes I'll throw some L-citrulline in there if it's not already in something that I'm taking. But this one particular supplement, it made me nauseous. Like I
Yeah.
was at the gym. I mean, I work out hard enough to make myself nauseous just by itself. But like it was at the beginning, so I was like, "Oh God, I feel like I'm gonna throw up." I like was salivating, and I was like, "Oh, I definitely am glad I didn't put the whole dose in.
Yeah. It's
I would have
always good to experiment.
Yeah, so probably if somebody's new to anything, I always recommend take half of what's recommended to see how your body reacts to it, right? And then if
Yeah.
it's a go green flag, then you can kind of graduate into the full dose.
Especially if it's gonna because almost any pre-workout might mess with nausea anyway.
Yeah.
Almost anyone is gonna have a potential side effect of nausea. So this supplement is a gradual effect, right? So sometimes the endorphins will cover up the wakefulness you end up feeling from it. Like actually somebody didn't even take it before a workout. They just took it and they were working right? Because the supplement is designed to take daily if you wanted to. It doesn't necessarily have to be for a workout. It could be just for extra focus.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the ingredients in there are mood boosting. So
Interesting.
I tried to make sure this hit a lot of different spectrums because it's basically $120 worth of supplement into one, and it's being
Wow.
sold for $39.99 right now, and eventually $49.99. And
And that's if you were buying all the supplements separate.
yeah, and that's if you're buying them all separate. So this is like everything
I think it's
combined.
more than that, actually, because
Yeah, I did a rough estimate.
yeah, if you just think about like the creatine, just depending upon the quality of that, that's 50, 60 bucks. Well, 40, 50 bucks probably. And then, with the mushroom extracts, the pre-workout combination, the ginseng, all that. So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I tried to
so
make it as
definitely
affordable as possible. So
right,
because getting into fitness, the main barrier is not knowing what you're doing. And
yeah,
then also there's so much information out there that it's very confusing and you're just like, "Oh, I got to do this. I got to invest in this. I got to." You don't need a supplement in order to get started working out, right?
right.
So you don't need a pre-workout if you don't want a pre-workout. Personally, I work out after work and I put in 12-hour days, 14-hour days sometimes. So I need a little
Mhm.
pick me up afterwards.
Right.
So I end up taking something and I played around with yerba mate. I ended up getting the shakes a little bit.
Yeah. And
And
there's some controversy with that too.
there's
A little
controversy with
bit.
almost everything. There's different brands and it's starting to become more recognized too. But some people use that as a natural energy boost. I experimented with it because I like to research and just play with different things to see if it's something I want to do and invest in for the supplement company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Vital U is in the early stages. That's the company's name, and eventually it's going to have coaching services as part of it. So it's one of those things to where I want to make sure everything has a purpose of helping and assisting in the fitness journey and health journey, right? And I'm just like, yerba mate has a potential, but I think it depends on if you have assistance of other things with it to regulate how much caffeine is actually getting in your system and playing with the other plant nutrients in your body,
Right. Because it is all about the blends of it all.
Yeah.
Because, the comparison I'll give is, my background, I work in the day spa industry since 2003. I've been working out since I was 19. So my hands have been in both those industries for a really long time. So, skincare can also be really expensive. So some people will think that they're cheating the system. Like if there's something that has vitamin C in it, oh, well, I'll just take an orange and cut it in half and rub that on my face. Well, it's not the same thing,
Nope.
because there are, and it's something that has a vitamin A and E in it. They both help facilitate the delivery of each other
Yeah.
with other ingredients and products to make the product the best that it can be. So there's a lot of science behind,
And
the supplementation and what mixes together. And that's why it is continuously evolving.
yeah, and the cool thing with vitamin C is the body has a natural regulating system to where you just pee out the excess that you end up getting. So if
Right.
you take too much, like there's a threshold. I couldn't tell you the number right now because I forgot it. But there's a threshold on how much you can do it, and you can absorb it through your skin if you put it on directly. But it's not
Right.
the same thing as putting all that acidity of an orange on your skin that could potentially irritate it. So,
Right.
but A and E, or so, yeah, A and E, they are used through fats.
Right.
So there is a threshold on how much you can take because you can overdose on it uh, pretty easily.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, where are you going to get this from? Because ideally, you're getting these through whole foods. Supplementation is a supplementation for a reason. You supplement when you can't get it from the foods you're eating, right? Or it's just not accessible to you at that time. Like the standards for fruits and vegetable intake are 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies a day. How hard
Right.
is that to get in? That's super
Yeah.
hard. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
these powders don't supplement it.
Right.
That usually you will pee out, like the greens powders and things like that. Um, so I'm just like, okay, let's look at this from a different perspective. If you're having currently 2 servings of fruits and veggies a day, get 4. You just doubled your intake, right? And now you doubled the amount of micronutrients you're getting. Feel free to count nuts, seeds and legumes in there because they are part of plant-based foods that are delivering those nutrients too, and they're all considered part of that family. It's when you
Right.
get into like popcorn or something like that. I don't think I would consider that, or grains. I would not consider that as part of your fruit and vegetable intake as much.
Oh, come on, Peter. You're
Yeah.
no fun.
Yeah, like I wouldn't count popcorn as corn, because that corn is a vegetable, but I wouldn't count popcorn as the vegetable, the kernel.
Correct, unfortunately. But it is a great snack if you do the light version and you
Yeah,
don't dump a bunch of stuff on it. It can be very
it can
satisfying.
definitely curve the way you just deliver into your mouth, like that constant snacking feel for a
Right.
low calorie alternative, right? Because I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't eat certain things. I'm
No,
saying
I
add some
know. I know
stuff,
you
right?
don't. But
You know,
I know you don't.
so
But it is true because supplements are just that. That's a word.
yeah.
Supplementation. It's not to take the place of regular whole foods. Like when I have some people who start off with a nutrition plan with me, they'll be like, "Oh, I had like 4 protein drinks, and then an apple, and they're trying to get all their protein through drinks." And I'm like, "Well, that's great, but you got hit your protein goal, but you get so much more advantage when you consume your nutrients through whole foods."
Yes.
For the most part, because you get the amino acids like from chicken and
And you get
meat,
other
like you said.
micronutrients, vitamins and
Correct.
minerals.
So, supplements are just that. They're made to supplement a healthy nutritional plan that you're already in.
Yeah, it's meant to help amplify it, if you
There
will,
you
but
go.
not be on its own. Like, so for instance, one of the best supplements you can take to up your protein intake, if that is very hard for you through whole foods, like, there's varying ranges of protein intake recommendations, right? So the minimum standard is 0.6 to 0.9 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. I say kilogram. That's basically half. Divide your body weight in half. That's a rough estimate, right?
Hmm.
So I'm 150 pounds. Let's just say that's 75 that I would multiply by 0.6 to 0.9. Is that enough protein for me and my activity levels? No, because that is the minimum recommendation on your body's needs, right? So protein is used to create enzymes in your body for metabolic processes to carry out other things. Vitamins and minerals help create coenzymes to work with the protein. That's
To
why
make it
vitamins and
lean.
minerals are important. That's why eating it from the whole foods is important in itself too. So if you are trying to get as much bioavailability from protein outside of your whole food intake, it is recommended from studies to have 1.2 to 1.8 grams for fat loss. The higher the protein, the more the fat loss. Obviously, there's going to be a cap limit on what you and your body can handle. So experiment. It's very filling. It's very satiating too. In female resistance training athletes that were premenopausal, I believe they got up to 2.26 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. 'Cause I know it was around 2 point something, but don't quote me on that. But that is what helped increase the amount of fat loss they had with the
Yeah.
varying hormones in the different phases, like luteal and things like that. It was
Yeah.
relatively consistent, taking into account water weight and stuff like that, right? So the higher the protein intake, the more fat loss. Is it easy to get 1.2 to 1.8 grams of protein, which would be the recommended for athletes or just muscle building in general, which could help you lose body fat and gain muscle weight, which will overall help your metabolism or your body to just burn more calories so you can eat more and enjoy more food? Um, 1.2 to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. That is very hard to get from whole foods. Think of 4 ounces of meat is typically 20 grams of protein, depending on the meat, right? So
Right.
that's 3 meals. That's going to be 60 grams, depending on how many meals you have a day. Don't put
Right.
yourself in a box. Have whatever you
Right.
want. Like as long as you're hitting your caloric goals and whatever it is. But I've had clients just focus on protein intake goals, and then their calories naturally go down because it's very hard to get your fruits and veggies in along with your protein goals to do it, right? And that's where the supplementation of protein takes its effect. Now, the best supplements of protein is going to be whey protein because of its high bioavailability. Due to the high leucine content, it absorbs pretty nicely. Leucine
The
is a
way
type
I
of
split.
amino acid, right? Now, if you have more of a lactose type of thing going on,
Hmm.
don't use whey if you're lactose intolerant.
Right.
Whey protein isolate has less lactose, and hydrolyzed whey has even less.
Right.
But it increases the price, right? Now, there is goat whey protein that has the A2 casein proteins, but casein protein isn't in whey. But there's a different structure of whey protein and less lactose typically in goat milk, right? And it's milk that it's coming from, cow milk. Um, and that will have less lactose, but it doesn't eliminate it completely. And quite
Right.
honestly, goat whey protein, although it could be easier to digest, it's about double the price of what you will see on regular whey protein from cow, from that aspect, right? So,
Hmm.
if lactose is not something that you want, or you're just vegetarian or vegan, soy protein is going to be the second highest in leucine content for bioavailability. If you're allergic to soy, just look at any other of the plant-based proteins and just get what you need
Because
from
there's so
there.
many.
Yeah, typically plant-based protein from any source, you're going to need more from those compared to if you're getting it from animal-based protein due to the cell wall making it a little less available for your body,
Yeah.
because there's less in your urine. They measured something. I forgot what that thing was. Nitrate. Let me Google it real quick. That's the benefit of being on here. Um,
Okay. And while you're googling it, I'll just chime in with, yeah, I'm on board with you with that because protein, I was the thing I preach more than anything. Especially for people who are not only athletes, but for the people who are trying to lose weight, because out of all of the three macronutrients, protein is the most thermodynamic.
yes.
So it's going to be the most satiating. It's going to be what fuels that lean mass. And the more lean mass that you have, the higher your metabolic rate becomes. So it's just a no brainer when you think about it from that perspective that you need to make protein your primary source of each meal. So if you hit that protein goal, so I always say at least go for 1 gram per pound of body weight or per pound of goal weight, and you take that number. So, like, let's say your goal weight was 150 and you can eat 5 meals a day, then that means you're going to be needing to hit that 30 mark, 30 grams of protein per meal, 5 times a day. And there is your formula. And if you use protein as your source, then you don't have to worry so much as your if you concentrate on your protein goal, I should say, you don't have to focus so much on how much carbohydrates, how much fat do I need, because it's just going to kind of fall into it. I think so many people have that challenge with overthinking it. So
Yeah.
I was just stealing some time while you were Googling that.
Well,
But
it's not that
really,
important on what the measurement is in the urine.
yeah,
It's just they used a measurement, and I can't really find the exact one, and I don't want to give the wrong answer.
yeah, no worries.
So, but at the end of the day, yes, it has a higher thermic effect, just as much as fiber. Fiber has a higher thermic effect. Plants,
Yeah,
fruits, and vegetables have a high thermic effect. So, if you focus on those two things, your body burns energy trying to take that and break it apart, right? So that's what's helping you basically have a caloric deficit. If you keep the same amount of calories, but shift to higher protein and higher fiber, because fiber is from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are not bad for you. You know what I mean?
right,
If you have diabetes, then you might have to change the amount of carbohydrates that you have, but they are still needed for most bodily functions. Now, obviously, if
100%.
you have certain medical conditions in which you're not able to process glucose or things like that, and there are some conditions
Sure.
in which that happens, then you might not be getting benefits from carbohydrates. But almost every single person, except for a small percent of the population, needs some type of carbohydrates,
Right.
no matter what it is. Now, the recommendations, I wouldn't say 60% are needed, you know what I mean? Because that used to be the my plate, 40 to 60%, right?
Right.
But we're starting to find out through a lot of studies to shift more into the protein and have that a little higher, anywhere between, I think they're starting to up it to 15 to 20% just to start getting things up there, especially as more people are becoming more obese and having type 2 diabetes. I mean, there was even one study that was done through a medical clinic, in which is now getting funded for type 2 diabetes treatment, is they ended up having 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight for those, which is roughly 20% of their intake of protein. And then they had 40% carbohydrates, and then the remaining fats when they're doing it. Now, saturated fat isn't bad if it's diversified across, if you have enough fiber, right? And if you have if you have polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. You just need to have other fats other than just saturated fat, right?
Correct.
So that's where it's kind of like debunking these myths. Like, whey protein powder is great, soy protein powder is great to get enough protein without all the extra calories from those sources too.
Right.
Long story short, I'm going in a
Yeah.
loop there. I
Yeah.
get on tangents quite a bit.
That's okay. That's okay. So let me loop you back into this one. So since we're talking about some other supplements besides the Shroom Nectar, which is, what you created, what are 3 supplements that you think are super effective?
So, as I mentioned, I believe whey protein is pretty effective in soy protein. I would say those 2 protein powders
Oh,
for as one.
okay.
The other one I would say is creatine monohydrate.
Yep.
And it's because it's one of the most well-studied supplements. Not only is it helpful for intracellular water into the muscles to help your ATP and all that good stuff happen for your lifting, so you can decrease the amount of fatigue and increase recovery time, but it also is having mood benefits. Yes, you can get this from whole food sources, red meats and seafood, but a lot of people aren't getting nearly enough in order to get the benefits from the creatine monohydrate, and it can be beneficial even if you're not working out. The last one I would say, for just energy and getting things going, I would say Rhodelia rosea has been more and more studied around there for fatigue. But at the end of the day, those are the 3 supplements I like and I think are beneficial. But a lot of supplements could be, but it depends on your intent. You always have to ask yourself before you take a supplement, why am I taking this? Like, right? When you get prescribed a medication, you're just like, oh, I'm taking this for this. Okay. How often are you now taking it? Are you taking it enough for it to actually be useful? Or are you just wasting money down the drain because you're not using it? You know what I mean? Like, it's just locked in the cabinet, right? So, anytime you take a supplement, are you going to use it? And if you do start using it, when did you fade off of using it? Or are you still using it? What was the purpose of it? Is it delivering your purpose anymore? No. Okay, don't take it. If it is, yes, keep taking it, right? So, like, for instance, I was playing around and I still use it. I like fish oil. That would be something I would say instead of Rhodelia rosea. I like krill oil
Mhm.
specifically, but I think if you combine krill oil and uh, fish oil, that they absorb into different pathways. One uses triglycerides, one uses phospholipid bilayer, which are just fancy terms on saying you absorb it differently. And krill oil has anaxanthin. If you're allergic to shellfish, it's not good. If you're allergic to fish, neither of these are going to be good. So, but it is a way to get more omega 3s since a lot of us
Right.
don't have the recommended ratio. Um,
Right.
the ratio should be 1 to 1 of omega 3s to omega 6s, but the other things are 4 to 1 that the suggestion is just to get those health benefits because we don't want anything too out of whack, right? Right now it's about 20 to 1 to 24 to 1 on what we're getting on the ratio of omega 6 to omega 3. Are omega 6s bad? No. Anything of these you need. You need omega 3, 6, and 9. It's just
Right.
about creating a ratio that may be more beneficial to you and your body. Although there are studies that suggest vegetable oils, a lot of different kinds, which get a lot of bad rep due to the getting past the smoke point and things like that in processing, that they still have some heart benefits. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily reduce all of this stuff, but just be more cognizant of how much you are getting in on those omega-3s, right? Well, we're not here to be fear mongering. Almost any food you're getting, as long as you're getting more whole foods, it's great. Just be careful on how much of it you're putting into the system.
Correct. And that's where it can become advantageous to hire somebody at the beginning stages, and I'm not just saying this to plug you and to plug me. I don't care if somebody gets somebody else. But at the end of the day, if you have struggled with, weight loss with your fitness journey, I don't know what to eat, I'm not sure how much to eat, I'm not sure about what supplements to take, then it might be wise to invest for at least 90 days into somebody who can help and direct you and put those training wheels on, if you will,
Yeah.
right? And get you going and helping you to understand things. And then from that point, you might need more than 90 days depending upon where you're at and what your needs are, but at least you'll have a foundation, to
Even like
build
a
from.
6 week course is beneficial just to give you an
Right,
idea of stuff, right? Like,
right, right,
because sometimes 90 days is a huge commitment, but it's really, you're going to get the most results out of 90 days because 3 months
right.
is the minimum in order to
Correct,
see this huge, like at least a decent transformation for weight
correct,
loss or even muscle building or things like that, right? So,
right,
it's just nice to have a guiding star, but if you're not with a certified dietitian or things like that, just be mindful on if they're telling you and prescribing certain meal plans. There are system processes you can use that come up with things, and that's a different story. But if somebody is initially saying, eat this, eat that, they do this, this is going to do that, then that's a red flag too. And
mhm,
that's where it's trying to determine what professional you're going to have, right? And obviously there's different quality standards in the industry, but unfortunately the industry isn't as regulated as it could be when it comes to nutrition and fitness information. Although
right,
nutrition is a little bit more regulated, it's very easy to get around it, and unless it's reported and things like that, right? Like there's so many health coaches out there that just did it as a side hustle because they did something for themselves and then end up being like, oh, I can do this for other people. And then they end up harming a whole bunch of other people, right?
right,
Coaching in itself is looking at what's currently happening, educating, and then helping you create a game plan based off of the knowledge you now have.
right.
And that's how nutrition coaching goes about with a lot of fitness professionals anyway, if you're trying to get away from the diagnosing. And that's the one in which you get the most benefit out of behavior change wise. Because if somebody tells you to do something and you feel like you have to do it all the time, there's that rebellious spirit that comes in and says, I'm not going to do this. But if you
Correct.
create a game plan that works for you with the other practitioner, that's when you're most likely going to have the best results.
Yeah. And then you also have accountability.
And you
That's
have the accountability, which is a huge factor for most people. I have somebody who
right.
lost 80 pounds, has a bunch of medical conditions with me. We've been together now a year and a half, right? And I told her, go to a dietitian. You have too much medical conditions going on for me to help you even more at the nutrition level. I will be
Yeah.
here for the fitness. I will be here for all that. But there's a lot of medical stuff going on. I don't want to step out of bounds. Like, I
Right.
want you to be helped to the best of your ability. If you have
Right.
to step away from me for a short time in order to afford that, go for it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
she mainly needed the accountability and just to be able to get moving because it helps a lot of stuff metabolically for systems to function better. In weight loss, you get the best weight loss when you pair the nutrition with the exercise. You can get it from nutrition alone, but you get the best results when you pair it with nutrition and exercise because you end up keeping it off longer.
And that's the thing I struggle with so much for multiple reasons because number one, I love working out. I really do. I have days I don't want to do it because I'm just tired and I have so much going on, but I thoroughly actually enjoy the whole experience of the
Yeah.
gym. Okay. But, there's a lot of people that'll reach out to me on Facebook and they'll be like, I'm going to start working out when I hit this weight goal or whatever. And I'm just going, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's great, but why would you not do it now? Because it's just to me crazy talk,
You're getting
right?
in the
I mean,
habit of doing it too now, to where it's easier to just keep going with it.
Right.
But I could see the aspect of some people waiting to get down just because their knees are hurting or their ankles are hurting and it's hard for
Well,
them
to
to
that
move.
point, but I think a lot of people just don't even understand
No, a
that
lot of people don't.
when you're working out and when you're building lean mass, you're going to lose weight because your metabolic rate, you can eat more food. It's like leading the horse without the cart and vice versa.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like,
And
they
a
work together.
an important thing to note about the eating more food, it's not necessarily that you're burning off all those calories. It's you're creating more efficient cells to utilize what you're creating, um, so you can burn it more efficiently. And I think
Even when
that's
you're
where a
sitting in that
common,
rest.
yeah, because I think that's a common misconception people um, think, like, oh, I have to burn this amount of calories at the gym. The body's smart. You're not burning those calories. Your body's trying to reach balance, so it'll automatically adjust certain things in order to stay where it was. So the best way to do it is to mess with the food to a certain extent, but also to create a more resilient body with some type of resistance training. It does not have to be traditional training, right?
Right.
Like, it does not have to be in a gym. You don't need a gym for it. It's helpful, but you don't need it. Like,
Right.
you can go out into a walk, your legs are pulling you. Yes, that's more cardiovascular, but it is what it is. You can do recreational sports like biking. You can go rock climbing. That's what I do right now for it. And then I do some resistance training to offset the imbalances so I don't hurt myself, right? But
Right.
that's my main thing that I do right now to keep me moving. You have to just find, like, rowing. Like, some people like to go rowing. Like, it's
Yeah.
what's gonna work best for you in that. Like, it can be a hobby that just gets you moving. Like, you do
That
not
you
have to
like.
go in the gym.
That you like. So
That
you
you
can
like. Make it
consistently do
something
it.
you like. If you're miserable going to the gym every time and somebody says you have to do this type of workout, it's a no-go. Do the workout that feels good for you and then go into the other stuff. Whether it's
Right.
a hobby you want to do that gets you moving, or you actually enjoy lifting in the gym, or
Right.
if you enjoy cardio, keep doing cardio. You don't have to
Yeah.
lift. You might
Yeah.
get more benefits out of the lifting.
Well, I always though do say, and I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. I'm not a big fan of doing tons of cardio. If you're training for a
Me too.
triathlon and all that stuff, that's great. That's amazing. If you're a runner, that's amazing. But when you get to my age, I'm almost 50. When you do too much cardio, it actually can bite you in the ass,
Yeah.
and not in a good way. It's you're already going to have more inflammation in your body. You're raising those levels of cortisol. You should always do cardio, but if you're really truly looking to transform your body composition, resistance training is what's going to do it.
And that's what the studies are suggesting, and it's mainly because of the muscle mass it's helping you provide, and some of the other muscle flexing actions that are actually happening that help
Hmm.
do that. Like, it helps you if, say, you have type 2 diabetes, for instance. It helps improve your ability to store glycogen because now you have bigger muscles for bigger stores for the
Right.
glycogen, right? That's like one of the best holistic treatments. Obviously, take the medicine. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But in order to holistically help it, building your muscles up is a very helpful way of doing it. Um, uh,
And you could possibly get off some of the medication.
you could, but we're not advertising that. So,
No. I mean, you follow your physician, but I have clients that have
yeah,
lowered their amounts of insulin,
it's amazing.
or I won't even go onto the train of the cult of the Wegovy Ozempic people, because that just outrages me. Um, but anyway, yeah, we're definitely not physicians, and we're not telling you what to do with that. We're just, explaining that there are some options that are healthy, that are safe, that are natural, that might assist you in the process of becoming healthier.
Exactly.
So, as we're wrapping up, Peter, what's the biggest takeaway you hope our listeners learn from today?
So the biggest takeaway I would hope you all learn is you don't have to supplement. You don't need to do anything with supplementation, but supplements can be helpful for you in the long run. But mainly, get moving, mess with your nutrition a little bit for the better, get the whole foods and supplement if needed. If you want a little bit of extra energy, feel free to check out my supplement, but that by no means is a have to. My main thing is to help you live healthier lives, right? And that's my non-negotiable. I don't want you doing something that makes you not feel good or busts your budget enough to where you can't afford the better food for you. I'd rather you have the better food than the supplement. So
Right.
I would like you to take away, supplementation can be beneficial on top of a healthy diet if that is something you want to choose.
I love that. I love that. So, what's next for you, Peter? What's on the horizon for the rest of the year and for 2025?
So, I would like to expand the brand a little bit more after it builds up a little bit. The stream in order to create more down the line. I mentioned the krill oil and omega-3. I plan on creating a combination supplement of that with a nice little lemon coating. To make sure the fishy burps don't happen. So, but it is a $25,000 startup, so funds from this current supplement need to come in before that happens. And I will expand out the online coaching community as well on my end to create something a little more feasible to help fight through the noise and just focus on building healthier habits. It's not focused on weight loss. That could be a side effect, but it's mainly just learning how to use your resources in order to build healthier habits, because that's the first step.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, I love it so much. All the information you shared was just valuable, so valuable. And wow, you're such a powerhouse of knowledge at such a young age.
Thank you.
So keep doing what you do. We need more people like you in this world.
I appreciate it. That was my main obstacle, was I was too young for things. So I tried to make myself as valuable as possible in the meantime to establish authority.
Well, you're killing it. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Your Fitness Chick podcast. As always, I'm here to inspire, uplift, educate, and motivate you to become your best self.
Hey, it's Abby, your fitness chick. Thanks for checking out today's episode. With your continued support, I can keep creating inspiring episodes just like this one. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. To stay motivated all week long, be sure to follow me on all my social media platforms. The links for those can be found in the show notes. Check out my website by visiting www.yourfitnesschick.com. And I'd like to thank my production company, Coraggio Media, but most of all you, my listeners, for helping to inspire me each and every day. I'll see you on the next episode.